I think there are going to be some really intriguing stuff coming up in this next Premier League season, but here we're only talking about one thing, and that is game week 1. There are some absolute blinders of games, so you're going to want to stay tuned and see what I think about them, but without further ado, let's get into the first match. On to Fulham versus Liverpool, and yes, Liverpool lost 4-0 to Manchester United, and then also lost 1-0 to Salzburg. What? Is full stop. Fulham had some great additions, including Paulinho, who was actually 3rd in tackles in Portugal last season, but players, they need time to settle in, so we're probably not going to see them shine until they have a little more time to gel. Also, if Liverpool play how they ended the season last season, they're in for a thumping. 3-0 to Liverpool with Luis Diaz getting a brace, and I'm on your FPL, lads. That's all I can say. On to Bournemouth playing at home against Aston Villa. Now, Villa got 14th last season and then 11th the season before. They're easily the most inconsistent side other than Southampton. This really means that the Cherries actually do have a chance, in my opinion, because you never know, it's the Premier League. Any team can beat any team. But I do have to say that Bournemouth signings are, they're crap. I mean, you've signed Tavernier from Middlesbrough, not really good enough. You've signed Fredericks, a reserve player for West Ham. I think this has been a terrible window. But I'm intrigued to see how Solanke can do coming up at one division, because actually in the Championship, he got a whopping 29 goals. So you know that's showing something. 1-1, pretty boring game, and new centre-back Diego Carlos, he's known in Spain as a little bit of a hothead, and I think he'll start off his debut absolutely magnificent, conceding a penalty. On to Newcastle versus Nottingham Forest. Both teams have transformed tremendously compared to this time last season. Newcastle's summer has been underwhelming, I can't lie. I mean, they've only signed Botman, but then, again, we've seen an Eddie Howe side at the second half of last season that was doing really well. You know, if they based it off the second half of the season placement-wise, they would have just been behind Manchester City and Liverpool in 3rd. Nottingham Forest, on the other hand, signing players are extremely important. You know, they don't want to go back down, so you've got to try and make that gap smaller between relegation and mid-table by adding quality players, and they've done just that. And one signing I'm intrigued to see how he will do is Jesse Lingard. Me personally, I think if he has a bad patch of form, then potentially he's 2 dances away from the Championship. But I do reckon he will succeed, and he'll probably get over 10 goals this Premier League season. 1-0 to Newcastle. I can't base a win for a team that I haven't seen in the Premier League yet, especially against a top 8 challenger. On to Spurs playing at home against Southampton. Now, last season, I'd say this is anyone's game. You know, you were just seeing the Jose Mourinho era end, and then there's Nuno Espirito Santo who's just came in. They're extremely inconsistent, you know, Conference League. But here it's totally different. Conte wants the title, and I think the hype is way overrated. They are nowhere near to the title, but they've definitely stepped up in quality. Conte's creating a disciplined army of players, and some of their signings have been great as well. The Saints did lose Broja, and for me that is probably one of the biggest misses of the season, because, you know, I was seeing a pattern in the game week predictions where if Broja scored, then Southampton won. If Broja didn't score, then Southampton lost. Some of the Southampton players are going to need to put in sweat, blood and tears if they want to survive this season, because I can tell it's going to be a bit of a rocky road. 2-0 to Spurs with Basuma getting an absolute beauty. On to Leeds playing at home against Wolves. Now, say what you want to say, but Leeds are the favourites here. Jesse Marsch has added to his squad with players that live and breathe this man's tactics, and that helps in a team. Wolves, they, on the other hand, haven't really signed many players. I think they've signed Nathan Collins, but that's been it. And their defence is already good. They're going to be lacking goals this season, I can really tell. And something else I can tell is mid-table mediocrity is for both of them. 1-1, the match won't really have any differences to a game of ping pong. On to Everton playing at home against Chelsea. Now, both teams, they're in trouble this season. Mark my words. Everton have not replaced the guy who literally was involved with 35% of their goal contributions in the Premier League, Richarlison. Well, they have. It's Dwight McNeil. Dwight McNeil. No, that doesn't count as replacing him, because he is absolutely crap. And they're also blinding the fans with a centre-back signing that, in my opinion, could be described as overhyped. Chelsea, they ended pre-season in terrible shape, even losing 4-0 to Arsenal. Oh my gosh. And then on top of that, they can't buy any players because Barcelona will just snap them right up. 2-1 to Chelsea, with it actually being a bit of a close game. I can tell. I watched Chelsea and Everton play multiple times last season, and it was always quite close. And I think with Lampard, knowing most of the Chelsea players, it will give him a bit of a hand. On to Leicester playing at home against Brentford. Now, the stats will be pretty matched. I can see this being a very sort of dull game statistically, and I don't think any team will be standing out. I can also tell that most non-fans will be switching off the telly at half time. Brentford started strong in last season's game week 1, beating Arsenal 2-0. Leicester's season, in my opinion, and I think you will all agree with me, I'll be surprised if you don't, relies almost entirely whether Vardy has the shooting boots on. Last season he was riddled with injuries and he wasn't very clinical, so we need to change that this season because they've got no players coming in, and on top of that, they've lost their captain and a club legend, Kasper Schmeichel. That's great business, Brendan Rodgers. Well done. You're going to get sacked. 0-0. On to Manchester United playing at home against Brighton, and I've honestly, genuinely, I'm not even joking, I have trauma from the last time we played them. 4-0. People will say at the end of the day that Brighton will massively miss Basuma, but I disagree. Potter is not a stupid manager. He knows tactics. He knows how to run a football club. And I think he's planned for this to happen, hence Caicedo getting a bit of game time up until the end of the season. United undoubtedly had the best pre-season out of anyone except for Arsenal, and this Erik ten Hag football is really, really impressing me. We got a 4-0 win against Liverpool. We don't really see that anymore. And also, Martial somehow turned into R9. 3-0 United. We saw last season we started really strong with an absolute thrashing against Leeds. We'll do the same here. Erik ten Hag is at the wheel. On to the last game of the video, and it's this is going to be great. West Ham versus City, and the reason I think this is going to be great is because West Ham usually play very good against Manchester City. I mean, last season they drew 2-2. I remember this game. This was when Liverpool was on their tails and they couldn't drop any points, and Bowen turned into Ronaldo. I am telling you now, you heard it first. Scamacca will play and he will score. If this man gets the service he needs, you've seen my video, you know what I think about him. If he gets the service that he needs over the season, then he will be clinical and he will score. On to City, and I'm going to talk about more negative stuff. I actually think Pep made a massive mistake, potentially one of the biggest of his whole managerial career, selling 2 consistent goal scorers in Raheem Sterling off to Chelsea and Gabriel Jesus off to Arsenal. And yes, they've replaced them with Alvarez, who has actually been quite good in pre-season, and Haaland, who, he's been a bit hit and miss. Thing is, Haaland, he's got loads of injuries in his career, and I think if this continues, then that may potentially be a problem, and Alvarez is still yet to prove himself in the top 5 league. 3-2 to City. Yeah, sorry West Ham fans, I gave you a bit of false hope there, but I will give you, it will be a good watch. Cheers for watching, lads. If you liked the video, then click on the channel, see all the other videos I'm making, and if you like them, why not subscribe? Growing channel, and I'm really thankful for all the support, lads.